Miss Marvel is one of the great paragons of the all-new, all-different Marvel movement, the first major Muslim superhero to take the main stage in Marvel Comics as a shining beacon of diversity, a paragon of virtue, and a shining example of representation for the Muslim world. You could argue that after the character's introduction back in 2015, the long-term plan was to eventually get her into the MCU proper. I mean, you gotta have something else to export to Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries when they keep on blocking your movies for having gay romance scenes. So it always felt like it was in the cards to get this character on screen in an attempt to break away from the straight white hetero trio that built the backbone of the MCU way back during the Avengers and introduce an MCU superhero for everyone. And largely, I'd say Miss Marvel accomplishes this goal in spades by telling a youth-infused superhero story that is brimming with all kinds of hip Gen Z making TikTok energy that I'm told the kids love. The same kind of energy that made the Spider-Man Home trilogy such a staggering financial success. But there are a few glaring problems that hold Miss Marvel back from being a slam dunk that was needed. So join me, true believers, as we break down how one of the most promising Marvel heroes quickly turned into kind of a complete mess. You gotta love to be gone back yet. Love turns into happy, don't you grab it. Miss Marvel tells the story of Kamala Khan, a Pakistani girl who's a second-generation immigrant living in Jersey City. She's an ultra fangirl of the MCU who stands Captain Marvel, but also is trying to figure out what she wants to do with the rest of her life as her time in high school starts to come to a close. She's got a close cadre of cool friends, lots of crushes on hunky guys, just about everything you'd expect from a typical American high school girl. The whole thing oozes with the same kind of energy as the lost pilot of the American version of Sailor Moon.
Looks like an angel flying higher than a bird. Sailor, Sailor Moon. She's got a life in the sky and another here on earth. Sailor, Sailor Moon. Her talking cat Luna gives her advice. The princess spiders stand by her side. Sailor, Sailor Moon. Sailor, Sailor Moon.
Only, I guess, infused with Islamic and Pakistani culture and TikTok. Lots of TikTok. Honestly, I think the slice of life stuff is probably where the series is at its strongest, by introducing the unique universe Kamal inhabits and the different communities she interacts with at the mosque and at high school. Probably one of the best scenes of the series is where she tries to help her friend get elected to her local mosque council, and they show off all the different cute cliques at her mosque, like the Illumin Aunties and the Mosque Bros. It's the kind of diversity that feels relatable in terms of taking something that is typically personified by yellow filters, Islamic prayers, and montages of screaming women in hijabs, along with suicide bombers, that have come to dominate the West's perception of Islam in the Middle East, especially in media. But this isn't just a story about a girl growing up in New Jersey. No, this is an MCU superhero story, so of course Kamala gets the bangle that gives her superpowers. Now this is an interesting change-up from the comics that has some political history. Originally she was an Inhuman who had the ability to stretch her body and limbs. I mean, not sure what makes her different from Mr. Fantastic, but stretching powers fit the metaphor of her stretching herself to fit into the role of different identities in her life as a teenager, a Muslim, and an Avenger. You get the idea. So for those of you who don't know, Inhumans are basically like X-Men, only they're people who transform and get powers because they have an ancient alien blood, and when they inhale the Terrigen Mists, they basically get superpowers. For a brief period in the mid-2010s, there was a huge push by Marvel to emphasize the X-Men and lift up the Inhumans. Mostly it was because of Ike Perlmutter, who hated the idea of contributing any kind of publicity or revenue to Fox, who at the time still owned the rights to X-Men and had a relatively successful series of films based around them. So the X-Men were taken out of the comics, and mutants were replaced with the Inhumans. The Inhumans almost came to dominate the MCU itself, with the Inhumans TV series and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. also featuring Inhumans as well. Once upon a time, there was even supposed to be an Inhumans movie, but Kevin Feige always hated them, and they were never under his direct control, seeing how it was under the Marvel TV branch, which was headed by Ike Perlmutter. Eventually, Feige was given full control over just about everything as Perlmutter was pushed away, but that full story we'll have to wait for another video given how long and comprehensive it is with Marvel's own internal civil war. So it's not surprising that Kamala Khan got a new power set that would translate better on screen and a new origin story. Now we learn that apparently there's a group of people known as the clandestines who come from an alternate dimension known as the Noor dimension. In their exile on Earth, they've become known as Jinn. A way to add an Islamic spin on the MCU mythos, but the problem is, I guess the show didn't have enough money to give them cool superpowers because all they do is just fight with weapons and act like goons. I guess all the money went into visualizing Miss Marvel's powers, but not so much went to anything else outside of getting some stunt people to fight her. So the clandestines want to get the bangle back from Kamala so they can use it to get home, but because of the energy required for a dimensional portal or merge or whatever is so powerful, it could destroy the Earth, theoretically. This puts Miss Marvel in direct conflict with them as they serve as the primary antagonists. Now, I like the idea behind this, I just think the execution is lacking. The leader, Najma, just isn't a super charismatic or threatening bad guy. She gives like annoyed CEO energy versus supervillain energy. You can have an MCU show or movie with a not-so-great villain. The pantheon of Marvel is filled with mediocre, forgettable villains like Yellow Jacket, Malekith, the evil Dark Elf, and whatever that CGI guy from the Eternals was supposed to be called. I can't remember his name. So you can have a weak villain. The real mess of Miss Marvel happens here in the 5th episode, where a portal is opened to the Noor dimension, but apparently all it does is turn you into a CGI goopy skeleton that dissolves you. For reasons that are not adequately explained to the audience, Najma gives her son Cameron superpowers after becoming a CGI goo skeleton. I hate this. I hate that it's not particularly well defined where the powers come from, whether this was intentional or not, or how the power set even managed to manifest. I know it's a superhero MCU, woo, science magic, but half the fun of these things are being introduced to a rule set and seeing how characters interact and use those new rules. Like Doctor Strange using the Time Stone to trap Dormammu in a never-ending time loop to force him to bargain and spare Earth. Stuff like that is fun. Stuff like Miss Marvel's hunky Arab boy toy crush getting powers for no reason is just kind of dumb and derails most of my goodwill and sympathy that the series had been building. Then we get the final episode where everything falls apart. So this is a pretty big problem. You just disintegrated the bad guys you've been building up for the past 5 episodes into gooey CGI skeletons. So you need a conflict to end out the final episode. So we get Cameron, the son of the leader of the clandestines, serving a dual role. On one hand, Kamala wants to get him away from the evil white people of damage control so they don't put him in the MCU's version of Abu Ghraib. On the other hand, he's a teenager with powers he doesn't understand and he can't control, and they seem to be tearing him apart, causing him great pain.
I feel like I'm being crushed from the inside out.
So here's my big issue. Maybe I'm showing my straight white guyness a bit too much. But so this is a guy who has clearly communicated that he's in great pain. He doesn't want to hurt anyone, as shown by the fact that he distanced himself from his mom once he learned that she'd be willing to sacrifice Earth just to get home. He's in a lot of pain. He's clearly a danger to himself and those around him. I think the best thing you could do for the guy is to get him to the authorities. Get him to some scientists who can maybe get his powers under control. Kamala Khan doesn't know what's going on with him. The rules aren't very clear with how his powers work. He looks like a raging human bomb that's about to detonate at any moment. Take him to Bruce Banner, call Wong to put him in a magic cage or something. I don't think the best solution that we, the audience, should be rooting for is to have this guy escape into the wild to, just figure shit out. For all we know, these powers are going to kill him at best, and at the worst, maybe kill a lot of people around him. But instead, we get this Home Alone sequence where Kamala gets a bunch of high school friends to try and do a Home Alone on damage control agents in her high school. Which is cute and almost works in a We're the Teens of America Nickelodeon Disney Channel way. And I know we're all supposed to be ACAB right now, but this just seems stupid. To engage in Kevin McAllister shenanigans when you have a walking teen nuke trying to run away from high school. Then the fight goes outside and you have Miss Marvel fighting to protect Cameron from the police, along with fighting to protect the police and civilians from Cameron, as he goes berserk a few times and almost gets them killed. Cameron lashing out at people just helps to justify my feeling that this guy needs to be put in some kind of science or magic cage for his own good, and protecting him just seems super irresponsible. All the while, we have the Muslim people of Jersey City cheering from the sidelines. I hate this because it's trying to echo the same feel-good, cheesy energy from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and it almost works. I'd like it if she was fighting some sort of cheesy Green Goblin villain, or, just have an evil MAGA guy who wants to send all the Muslims back out of America. Something like that would work. Like, there's literally a villain called Hate Monger. Bring out that guy and have him fight Miss Marvel. To have the Sam Raimi cheese work, you need to have easily identifiable heroes and villains, and I personally find it especially hard to root for the sexy Arab heartthrob with a magical nuclear reactor burning at his core as something I want to see escape into the world. But Kamala basically punches a hole to Pakistan. I'm serious, like it jump cuts to her punching a hole in the ground and it shows Cameron in Pakistan. I guess we're supposed to assume that he found some sort of passage there, but if you take the shot literally, it just looks like he crawled his way to the other side of the world. And the bad white person gets taken down by another white person with more authority. Just like the evil white guy in WandaVision, who did the oh-so-unforgivable crime of trying to free a city of enslaved people who were being mind-tortured by an out-of-control super witch.
We have your nightmares.
We feel your pain. Your grief is poisoning us.
No, stop.
Please, let us go.
You won't let us go. Just let us die.
It's a shame because I think Iman Vellani is great as Kamala Khan. Her family and supporting cast are all very cute. She has great chemistry with her different romantic shipping potential boyfriends like Bruno, the Red Dagger guy, and Cameron, which I'm sure would be all over Tumblr and fan art and fan fiction if Tumblr was still a culturally relevant platform. All the building blocks for something bigger and more fun are there. It's just missing the most important thread needed to pull a superhero story together, and that's a compelling villain, or even if it's not a compelling one, just a competent one. Oh, and please, for the love of God, don't have the evil cockatiel who's the reincarnation of Thomas Edison. Just find a D-lister from the Silver Age and bring them back. So there you have it. What started as one of the most promising MCU TV series, what has largely been a continuing series of mediocre disappointments ending in a belly flop. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who are happy with everything all the way through. I'm sure Muslims and Pakistanis were happy to see such a favorable representation of their culture. Some white people got inspiration to learn about the partition so they can talk about it on Twitter. And it seems to have launched Iman Vellani's career, which at least in the MCU will probably last throughout all of Phase 4 through 6. But a bad ending just leaves a miserable taste in my mouth. I just don't see how, given how much money Disney has and the level of talent they have, why it always seems to come down to the worst choices. Like recently I saw the Lightyear movie, which is a perplexing movie. Who in their right mind thought the Buzz Lightyear origin movie needed to see him spending nearly 100 years trying to figure out how to get a crashed ship off a planet? Pixar, with its infamously strenuous story group that goes through so many iterations of an idea over so many years, this was the best story choice? Same thing with Miss Marvel. You could have a really solid finish if you just gave her the most easy and basic of superhero fights. But no, you literally get rid of all the main villains in the episode before. But I think the greatest sin of Miss Marvel comes in the teaser scene at the end, where Bruno comes in to tell her that the power isn't from the bangle, but rather because she's a mutant.
Like a mutation.
Ooh, did you hear the X-Men stinger? They're finally coming to the MCU. And Kamala is the great vanguard of the X-Men, and it even has a Pakistani version of the famous X-Men cartoon guitar riff. Fuck off! It's cute, except for the fact that it basically throws all the time we spent on our origin story out the window and basically tells us it was all pointless. It's the worst kind of fan service and just feels like the previous 6 hours you were building our investment into were just a waste of time that were waved away for a cute little stinger. It also just doesn't really make sense. Like, if her powers are a mutation, then why did they only start acting up when she put on the damn bangle? It's a retcon that makes the previous 5 some odd hours of storytelling we were just watching completely pointless. Miss Marvel seems to share a problem that comes across in a lot of the Phase 4 heroes. The idea that it's so important to give the underrepresented groups like women and various minorities their time to shine, but they can't go through the typical hazing that defined the holy trinity of Phase 1 with Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. Iron Man is nearly killed and saddled with an irreparable heart condition while captured by Islamic-coded terrorists. He needs to literally build his way out, but even his greatest triumph doesn't give him the ability to save the one man who helped him out the most, Dr. Ho Yinsen, which leads him to act out as he builds a better version of the Iron Man tech, seemingly trying to correct that wrong. Captain America wins the war from Hydra and the Red Skull, but is forced into a position where he can never really reap the benefits of being a hero before being frozen in ice and becoming a man out of time, losing the woman he loved without ever getting that final dance. Thor loses his powers and has to earn them back, but each film strips something from him. In the second one, he loses his mother. The third one, he loses his father along with his home civilization of Asgard, and in Infinity War, he loses his adopted brother. It's this kind of struggle that kind of defined the heroes of Phase 1. But Miss Marvel just gets a bangle and bam, she has powers. She-Hulk gets powers, but instantly adjusts to them, and each minor complication is just a minor roadblock before she gets something good. Sure, the Eternals get captured by their celestial god, but hey, they're gonna get saved by Harry Styles, who somehow is Thanos' brother despite not being purple. Infamous YouTube film critic The Critical Drinker has had a series where he managed to do interviews with a lot of major filmmaking talent. One of the most notable interviews was with the directing duo of Adil Arbi and Bilall Fallah. I hope I got the pronunciation correct. If I didn't, please let me know in the comments. Who directed the first and final episode of Miss Marvel, as well as the recently canceled Batgirl movie. I'd highly recommend watching the entire interview if you have the time. I'll be linking it in the description below. Here are a few truncated clips.
It was a frustrating one.
You can say that you don't like it. No problem, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it with Az, right? We did a watch through of episode 1 because I haven't seen the rest of it yet, so I don't know about that. But the thing that jumped out at us, and we said this when we did our watch through, is like visually looks really good. Like I loved all the things like when they're sending text messages, they start appearing on like neon signs in the like behind the characters and stuff. Like, and it's integrated into the background. And that's, you know, it's cool. It's a nice little visual, you know, motif for doing it. You know, the actress that was playing Kamala Khan, she came across really nice. I think she's got a real kind of just natural kind of chemistry to her. The problem was just the script is really fucking slow. It's just really, there was nothing going on for like the first 20-30 minutes easily. And I was saying to Az as we were watching it, it's frustrating because I feel like I could condense all of this down to about 10 minutes, if that. It was just really weird how slow it was. And I don't know, like, obviously I know you guys had no real input into the script. You just have to direct what's there. But that was the annoying part of the show, and it just kind of felt like I didn't have much to latch onto with her as a character because I felt like there was nothing to her in that first episode. Like she just wanted to cosplay. She just wanted to go to a convention. I think maybe if she'd been bullied at school or something like that, okay, there's something there, but it felt like something was missing, like script-wise, story-wise. I don't know if you saw that or if it kind of came to you or whatever.
Well, we understand we obviously understand the criticism. I think that you know, it's a bit of thing that we have with a lot of pilots. We got a lot of scripts of pilots, and obviously we also did this pilot of Snowfall. And the tricky thing with a pilot is that you need to introduce characters. That's always a bit difficult. If you do it simplistically, with just, okay, where's the superpowers? So yeah. That's how you check it out. And in the concept that they wanted to do is they wanted to wait a longer for the superpowers to be introduced, because obviously there's other episodes where the story gets moving and all of that. So, you know, it's obviously it's a challenge, I would say, because you don't have your superpowers in the first 5 minutes.
It's also like a total new superhero. You don't know anything about her,
no.
Her world. So all those things need to be introduced. And then you have to see the family, you have to like learn her, and that's the build up of this first episode is difficult if you don't have the powers immediately.
So and that was what the concept they wanted to go for, which, you know, we understand, and that's why we were like saying, okay, we're gonna go for that. But then you gotta allow us to play with all the tools we can get, you know, to really, you know, to go into that style and to go into that flow and to go with the animation ideas and text messages, so that it's really vibrant, so that you get the audience, and especially a younger audience in that case, because, you know, it's for a way younger audience than what we're used to.
Yeah, it's not Bad Boys for Life.
It's less violent. So it's really to get this young audience to get into the head of Kamala Khan, into that character, into that world, and introduce. It's a lot of, you know, introductions. You're right, but I think that, you know, if you look at that character at Kamala Khan, the way that Iman Vellani plays it, she's a very charming person, and yes, she has this quirky world and quirky character. And I think that a lot of people, or in that case, the target audience that watches that, they recognize themselves in her, and they just want to see that slice of life vibe without having already the plot. And if you're more like in your case like looking for the plot, then yeah, it's gonna take a while. But then it's like after 30 minutes, then you really have, okay, boom, that's what happens. And then as the episodes progress, then you have really like the villains and the clear antagonist and a clear path of where the story is going. So that's a bit what the vibe is of the show.
I think, probably what I was looking for was just a little bit of, probably suffering's not the right word, but what you tend to get with these superhero characters is in order to become whoever they are, like Iron Man or the Incredible Hulk or whatever, they have to lose something in the process. It's like a trade-off, you know. Tony, to become Iron Man, he's like terminally injured and he's got to use this thing to keep him alive. Bruce Banner's got to lose his humanity, but and he can never live a normal life now in order to become the Hulk. But I think with that first episode with Kamala Khan, she just kind of puts on the bracelets and just gets the powers, and like there's not really a loss, there's not really a trade-off there, and I guess that's what I was kind of looking for. And maybe it's just a result of, like you say, it's set for a younger audience, and they didn't want to put those kind of heavy themes into it.
You have to see the other episodes because discover and understand what this power is,
grow
and what their responsibilities.
Yeah.
So she will, she will get to a point where she has to, make a choice or become a superhero. So those things are there, but it takes, that's the beauty of making episodes. You can take more of your time.
Yeah. And for us, it's like the fundamental story of the first episode. If you just break it down to the simple thing, it's just she wants to go to that convention. She's a teenage girl. She wants to cosplay. She wants to go there, and it's not that simple. And her mom and dad are not game for that. And it's also that's just the story of that one episode, and that's not the same thing as the bigger superhero story that's the overarching thing of the whole season. So yeah, that's a bit what the concept was of the pilot. You don't particularly like the pilot, or you have criticism of it. What you say is that you like Iman Vellani, and I think that across the board everybody actually likes that actress, and I think that's
the actress is fine. Like I think she does a perfectly good job. Like and like I say, visually, directorially, that first episode perfectly fine, great. The criticisms were just with the script, really.
Totally. It's I mean, you're a writer yourself, and I mean we watch your videos because we learn a lot from watching YouTube videos and your channel. You mentioned Neurotic, we watch them too, but we watch also Filmento, if you know that that YouTube channel, and a couple of film channels like that are very. Brown Table is also one that we watch. So we
learn a lot
because we are fans of YouTube, and we watch all of your videos and we analyze, and we don't agree necessarily with everything. I mean, sometimes we were like, I like that, or I didn't like that in small amount of moments. But we hope that by doing that, talking to you, to listening to the fans, showing the love to the fans, all the kind of fans, all of them, that we can lower the temperature and just make stuff that the mass audience loves it, because at the end of the day we really want to make something. Whatever, Miss Marvel, it's this Pakistani Muslim American girl, but we want that character to be appealing to everybody, to universally, that it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a Pakistani American girl to love that character. It can be everybody. Like we all love this young guy from Queens, and everybody can love the young girl from Jersey, and that's what we try to do, hopefully.
What I find really interesting is that this is a great meeting of the minds. Adil and Bilall are Danish filmmakers of Moroccan descent and Muslims. You could not ask for a better example of the new diversity of talent that is being pushed. The Critical Drinker is one of the leaders of the right-leaning anti-diversity, anti-woke section of the YouTube fandom, who mostly writes movie and TV reviews critiquing identity politics being pushed into every piece of genre media.
He soon turned to confusion when the first promo pictures and casting announcements came out, and we were treated to the baffling sight of Lance Reddick as Albert Wesker, not to mention a primary cast composed almost entirely of women. Was this really going to be another ridiculous race-swapped intersectional feminist disaster drenched in heavy doses of The message. Watching Evelyn Marcus interacting with her wife is almost physically painful. It adds absolutely nothing to the story and seems to exist for no other reason than so the writers can make it very clear that she's married to a woman. Wow, groundbreaking stuff in 2022.
Ostensibly, you'd think that they'd be butting heads like cats and dogs, but the three managed to have an interesting civil conversation. An interesting observation from the critical drinker is how Miss Marvel is very slow and takes a while to get to the point where she gets her powers. But the two filmmakers' argument in defense is that the tone of the series in the first episode is all about the slice of life moments along with setting up the extended cast. And I'd say I'd leave favor in their argument, since that's more the identity of the series, as well as its tone. But it sort of speaks to an element that annoys the core fan base of comic book fans. We kind of like to see our characters struggle, because the more hardships you put them through, the more we like them when they get their big hero moment. Take a character like Daenerys Targaryen. She goes through absolute hell in the first season of Game of Thrones. She's sold into a marriage she never agrees to, as a malicious horse lord force himself on her without consent, becomes the queen of the Khalasar but loses them after she loses her husband. She has nothing as she goes into a funeral pyre until she awakens her dragon eggs and has the chance to rebuild her dynasty through fire and blood. I don't think I've seen any of the Phase 4 characters have an arc that felt as satisfying or earned as that, because you gotta have the lows to get to the highs. But conversely, take Miss Marvel, which is a pretty low-key slice-of-life series. If you have that as your strength, then maybe focus on that. The trip to Pakistan is nice, but maybe that time and money would have been better spent seeing her interact with her community in Jersey City and helping out deal with smaller crimes in the Jersey City area. Miss Marvel doesn't have to feel so messy, it's just a matter of figuring out the tone and sticking with it, which is the weird position most of the Disney Plus shows find themselves in. They're in a strange middle ground between movies and TV shows where they're not long enough to really scratch that itch for a long-form story, but they're too long to be a movie and are filled with big special effects moments which are designed to feel bigger and better than things you'd see in other genre shows. But the Marvel shows in Disney Plus have all felt kind of like consistently middling disappointments, dropping the ball by the end of the series. Miss Marvel's probably one of the stronger efforts, but still kind of drops the ball before the end. It feels like the tide is about to turn on the MCU. Critical articles have become more pointed against the MCU, the knives are out waiting for the dynasty to fall, and the cracks have started to form. Maybe we'll see some sort of course correction in Phase 5 or 6. But all things must come to an end, but maybe discussions like the one held between the critical drinker and Adil and Bilall can help heal the rift between the studio and fan cultures. Only time will tell, but at least I hope you can see why I think Miss Marvel has become kind of a mess. Hope you enjoyed that video. Really curious to hear what you think in the comments. It feels like Miss Marvel came and went with little fanfare and didn't quite gain the same kind of attention as other Marvel shows like She-Hulk. So if you saw it, I'd like to know what your thoughts are. Did the ending kind of ruin things for you like it did for me? If you are Muslim or Pakistani, was this the kind of representation you've been looking for? Did you feel seen, as the young kids say? But after this video, it's that time of the year again. A new season of My Hero Academia is premiering in October, which means it's that special time of the year. The return of an annual tradition on this channel. The return of My Hero Month. A special month where I do an entire month's worth of content focusing on everyone's favorite superhero shonen battle manga and anime. So next time I post a video will mark the official kickoff of My Hero Month. Of course, here we all worship the greatest hero of YouTube, Stanley Tucci.
Algorithm! Math!
Yes, the spirit of algorithms and math by which YouTube channels grow or die. But this magical power of algorithms and math are something only you have the power to control. Like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. All these things will appease Mr. Tucci and bestow upon my channel the blessings of algorithmic growth. A special thank you to the diverse cast of Phase 4 MCU heroes who support my work on Patreon. These are the real heroes who give the money that they could be spending on Disney Plus and give it to me instead. They are Joseph Malty, Aaron Toney, Carla Hoffman, Walking the Steps, Shonen Ronan, and Eric Duquesne. If you'd like to join these fine heroes and see my videos early and hear me do a creative shout out calling out your name, then click the Patreon link coming up in the end cards. And I'll see you when I officially kick off My Hero Month of 2022.